so glad to be here with Tony Ahedo. That's right, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't want to mess that up. Parker Padgett and Devon Hales, and they're stars of the new film and director of Icon. And I guess really to kind of start this, I just finished the film probably about an hour ago. I absolutely loved it. I think everyone in it was incredible. I thought the direction, I thought the story was really powerful. Um, my first question for Tony is, if, I know it's a very, very deep story, and I don't know if there's like personal issues with that, but if it's okay with you, what was your inspiration that came from making this film? What did you kind of want to get out of it?
Yeah. So it all started with a short story that I wrote in college based off of the last time I saw my dad as a kid. So that memory is portrayed in the film. It's the arcade sequence, getting the guitar, doing that whole bit. And so there's like a couple of things from, that I remembered as a kid that just struck me as like, just so visual that I remembered like weird little details that I was like, I kind of want to make this into a film. And so I made a short film from there. And what I realized was that there's so much more to the short that I made that I wanted to explore. So things from my childhood and, other issues that kind of teens go through when they're growing up and kind of dealing with the problems that are come up in the movie.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, that was my next question because I watched the short yesterday and I thought the short was very good as well. Which anyone listening, you can watch it online for free. What are the issues and what are the differences in creating a short from a 9-minute short to an hour and 45-minute movie?
Well, I think the biggest, I guess, issue would have been just making sure that there is enough story to tell. Because with the short, every time you try to make a film, you try to make a beginning, middle, end. A lot of things were said, but what really was missing from the short was, this, the growing up aspect, being a teenager, and facing these problems. I only had a couple of scenes in the short, and obviously I have a whole film about it now. So I really love just, when I hit the writing process and diving in and just being able to really just expand that character development and give it more than just a tool to get the story done. I mean, the short was always, a test for the future. It was me just saying, let's see if people respond to the story and, get a practice run in.
Mm-hmm. Question is for Parker and Devon. What kind of drew you to this film? How did you guys hear about it? What was the process of getting into the starring roles of the film?
So for me, I was fortunate enough to work with Tony on my previous feature film, and we kind of hit it off on that set. And a couple of years later, we kind of got back into contact. He said, "Hey, I'm creating this feature film. It's called Icon. I'd like for you to come out and audition." So I did, of course, and we continued to go through that audition process. And I read the script and fell in love with it instantaneously. And I was just drawn to the slice of life type of feel that it had to it. There's a lot of little moments in the script that in the movie as well, where it's just people living. It's people going through everyday problems, everyday life experiences. And I thought it was really intriguing, that aspect of the script. And from there, Tony and I continued to talk about it and ended up here.
And the audition for this came through my agency here in Atlanta. And I actually found out later that I was originally in the reject file for that casting director, and Tony came in and found me. So yeah, I'm grateful to Tony for taking a look and coming in and finding me there. And had a couple of scenes to tape from the script, and was really interested in the love that Anna and Sam had for each other, and how grounded they both were, and so it was an exciting project to work on.
Well, that actually, interestingly enough, that leads into my next question for Tony. You know, as Devon said, you found her in the reject pile. Where when did you kind of know these were the people for the film? What was that kind of mental state of saying, like, this is who I want to tell my story?
Yeah, so like Parker mentioned, I met Parker before, and he played a very different character on that film. But I kind of saw that, just that kind of teen that Sam, is inside of him. When he was just there, I just kind of saw something about him, and he's obviously very talented. So I sent him the script, and then we did a big audition process. So we had a lot of people come in, and I think I met up with him for callbacks, and that's when I knew. So I met up with him in person, and gave him some direction, and we were just able to kind of bounce back and forth really well, and he was it. And he did an amazing job. There isn't a better Sam out there. And then same goes for Devon. We did a long audition process, and I don't know if it was technically a reject. It was just like we didn't call this person in. And so I was going through, and I was like, well, let me just look through all these so I can be double sure about these other actresses that I had lined up at the time. And then I saw Devon's tape, and I went, holy shit, she is like, she might be it, but I got to talk to her. And then I think we did a Zoom call or something like that. And, once I talked to her, we were kind of on the same page, and, the rest was history.
And Devon, did you know that you had not gotten a call back, or you were in the, what Tony says isn't a reject pile, but reject pile? Did you know that you were in that kind of situation? You already kind of pushed this project to the side and said, on to the next one?
Yeah, I mean, you always try to film it and forget it. And then, if you go about, sometimes they come back and they surprise you, but a week and a half, 2 weeks, you don't hear anything, and you just, you move on to the next thing. So but I didn't hear the story until later, but I assumed that I had not booked it. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's really interesting. And I mean, of course, I think these choices were amazing. I think you two, again, did an absolutely incredible job, which the movie got very, very deep and very, very hit some very dark points at times. What was it kind of like getting into these kind of characters with, it was like Parker saying, just real people with real struggles and real emotions? What was it kind of like getting into those roles, and how did you go about that process?
It's a lot of conversation before the camera starts rolling. A lot of thought going into it the day before. For me, what I tend to do is when I fall asleep the day before we're about to film what we know is coming up, I will literally just half dream about that situation and act as if I'm, going through that, and wake up the next day and know that we're ready to take on whatever the scene is that we're shooting at that time. A lot of conversation with Tony and with Devon or whoever else would be in the scene, and just kind of bouncing back and forth between different ways that we could approach that situation, that kind of thing.
Yeah, Tony made it very clear from the beginning that he was interested in a collaborative process, and I'm definitely grateful to him for that. Because a lot of times, on limited time and possibly a limited budget, like indies sometimes have, and it's also a personal story from him, like you don't often get that opportunity. But just having Parker was obviously like really prepared and always really committed, and so just to sit in the moment and get into it, and then being collaborative on the dialogue sometimes, and just so that the thought was continuous with the action. And yeah, Tony was able to sort of let us say things how we might say them rather than what was on the page. So yeah, that's how we got into it.
You bring up the point of budgets and smaller budgets, which, you know, you see a lot of indie films and you can tell they're an indie film, where I want to give props to Tony. I felt like this had a feel of a much larger film, as well as kind of being that intimate indie film on top of it. But for Devon, you know, I know that you've been on, you know, a Netflix show, you've been on Teenage Bounty Hunters. What is the kind of difference between a Netflix series, you know, something like Netflix, versus something like this that's a little smaller budget?
Yeah, I think a huge perk of working on an indie like this, you know, I have had some opportunities like that, but I'm still very much at the beginning of my career. And I think on an indie, especially working with a great team and good people like we had on this, you really get a front seat view to how TV and film gets made, which is something I'm really interested in right now. And yeah, you know, the hours sometimes that you might normally be tucked away in a trailer, like you're on location, you're on set. And yeah, I think the more you know about how much time and effort and sweat it takes to make something like this, you know, the better team player you are. It makes you a better actor, I think, and just gives you a greater appreciation for the craft. So that's how I look at it right now.
Okay. And I know, you know, the structure of film and TV are, you know, vastly different. You know, TV, you've got multiple seasons to tell one story, whereas film, you know, you've got an hour and a half, 2 hours to tell one story. Which one do you kind of prefer? Do you kind of prefer the, you know, come in and tell an entire story at once, or do you prefer that kind of slow build up to the next season, to the next, you know, that kind of thing?
I do really love TV and working on, yeah, an episodic um, journey, storytelling structure. But at the end of the day, I prefer whoever is going to hire me. I prefer whoever is going to give me a job. So this was an amazing experience.
Well, that's really good. And you know, Tony, I know that you're planning on releasing this into the film festival circuit. Have you been accepted to any? You know, where can people find this movie if they wanted to end up watching it?
Yeah, so it has been accepted into CineQuest Film Festival. So actually, in 10 days, on March 20th, it will be available for, I think, anybody that signs up with an account. So, you know, just look up CineQuest. They can find it. We have been accepted to 2 more festivals that I'm not allowed to announce just yet because they haven't released their programs. But yeah, if they want to follow us on Instagram or on Facebook, I usually have our team post every update, every film festival as soon as we can. So it's going to play around. CineQuest is our world premiere. It's our first festival of many, and you know we're going to try to get this thing out so everybody can see it.
Yeah, I definitely think everyone should see it. You know, it is that kind of slice of life and that kind of story that I feel, especially with now, is better to be told. You know, and if all this didn't tell people enough, what's one kind of elevator pitch of why you think people should see this movie?
Yeah, so I mean, this is believe it or not, it's a period piece. Um, you know, it's set in the 2010s, so it's jumping back in time a little bit. So it's going to be a cool experience for a lot of people that grew up during that time to say, "Oh wow, I had an iPod like that."
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
you
I definitely noticed the iPods when
know,
Parker was selling that. Yeah.
um, So yeah, it's a slice of life. We keep saying that because that's what it is. You know, it's you follow these two teens who are falling in love, and they're just, you know, adulthood slams right in their face, and so they're forced to kind of face reality and face real problems that people go through every single day. So I think it's a story that's going to appeal to a lot of people, and you know, whether you know you're a teen right now, or you were a teen in 2010, or you know you're a mom with kids, like the story is going to hit you and it's going to connect with you.
Parker, Devon, anything to add?
Yeah, just building off what Tony said, it's like everyone, no matter where they come from or what walk of life they're from, what they're going through in any given moment, will find some character or some situation that they can connect to in Icon. Be it my character, Devon's character, any of like Sam's buddies in the film. There's such a vast array of characters who will all have their own individual personalities and problems and their own perspectives on life. So no matter who you are, where you're from, what your current life situation is, like that is all hidden in every little peak and cranny of Icon, and you can connect to it in any given way.
Yeah, this movie, you know, is about a complicated, nuanced young male protagonist finding his way in the world and chasing this idea of masculinity and what it means to be a man and ultimately a father. And the people who are going to help him do that are strong women and the women who surround him and are going to usher him into adulthood. So,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I can't talk about it enough. I loved it. I thought it was very personal. I hope everyone sees it. Like Tony said, CineQuest coming up soon. And I just want to thank you guys all for coming on. And I can't praise this movie enough. I thought it was great.
thank you.
Thanks so
Thanks
much.
so much, Jacob.